Okay, as you can see behind me, it's the Statue of Liberty, most famous for its scene in Ghostbusters 2.
That I'd rather be. Where else can you do 500,000 things all at $2:43? When they play their music, ooh, that modern music, they back it with a lot of style, but it's still that same old backbeat rhythm that really drives them wild.
Okay, we're looking for Columbia University, but really we're not having a lot of luck. It's got to be around here somewhere, so I'm just gonna keep looking. There's like nothing here. Okay, we're at Liberty Island, where we're looking at the Statue of Liberty, and behind me is Manhattan. We're gonna take you to some places around the city. You're gonna take a tour with us. Enjoy the ride. Of course, everybody knows about the Statue of Liberty. Images of her can be found all over the city. People dress up as her on the street. Wow. New York is a ton of fun. There's eye candy everywhere. Plenty of interesting people to see, and the Art Deco architecture is awesome. It's impressive during the day, but it's even better at night. The Empire State Building provides one of the best views in the city. If you get the chance, go see a show on Broadway. Suzanne and I saw Spider-Man. Speaking of entertainment, one section of our vacation was dedicated to finding some of our favorite movie locations. Some of them were hard to find, but we found some of the best, including a few places that are now historical landmarks for entertainment history. Our first stop is in Tribeca. All right, behind me is Hook and Ladder number 8, also known as the Ghostbusters building. This was the iconic spot in the movie where the Ghostbusters lived. From the sidewalk art outside to the red brick, the firehouse looks exactly how it did in the 1984 film. Today, it still functions as Tribeca's firehouse, and right above the lockers, the sign was still on the wall. I couldn't believe it. After all these years, the sign was still there. But where do those stairs lead? The roof? I wonder if they repaired it since the explosion. Next stop, Midtown Manhattan. The New York Public Library was a scary place as a kid. Seeing it in Ghostbusters, I would think, that has to be one of the most haunted places ever. With around 53 million books, it's the second largest public library in the United States. It too hasn't changed very much since the film. Even the thick wood study tables are still there. Shh. Some other scene locations from Ghostbusters can be found surprisingly close together. The National Museum of the American Indian was the museum used in the film. Washington Square Park is the location where the invasion of the giant demon took place. At West 65th Street is Lincoln Center, where Dana Barrett played cello for the New York Philharmonic. Columbia University. The statue, the campus wall. I tried to match up some of the shots, and as you can see, not a lot's changed. The campus looks pretty close to how it was in the movie. And for the most recognizable location, we head to the edge of Central Park. Okay, we're here at 55 Central Park West, and behind me is what many of you know as Spook Central, or Dana Barrett's apartment. This is where Gozer, the Gozerian, lived upstairs. And as you can see now, there's something going upstairs that looks like construction. I think it's a cover-up. We all know what's really going on. Surprisingly, the church next to it still stands today.
Nobody steps on a church in my town!
The area of Central Park is gorgeous. With a 6-mile perimeter, it's 843 acres large. To get an understanding of how huge it is, the best view is atop Rockefeller Center. The park takes up about 6% of Manhattan's total land area. Okay, behind me is the Flatiron Building, and if you can believe it, it is the first skyscraper in New York City. It's pretty old, and it's been towering here for years. 110 years to be exact. It was built in 1902, and at 21 stories, I guess 370 feet tall is tall enough to be considered a skyscraper. Alright, we've spent enough time above ground. The New York subway system has a lot of good history there too. Okay, behind me is Hoyt Schermerhorn Station. This is the iconic spot where Michael did his Bad music video. The King of Pop isn't the only one to show off some moves at Hoyt Station. TMNT had a few scenes there too. Here's my shot, here's theirs.
We've been waiting for you, Miss O'Neill.
Slime! It's a river of slime!
Ever wonder about the forgotten subway tunnel from Ghostbusters 2? Well, it exists. It's the old pneumatic transit system of 1870. They called it New York's secret subway.
Pneumatic transit! I can't believe it, it's the old pneumatic transit system, it's still here! Okay, whoa!
The tunnel was shut down and sealed off for years. It was only rediscovered late last century and just recently reopened in 2010, but not to the public. The only way to see it is to ride the 6 train to the end of the line. But don't get off at Brooklyn Bridge. As the train loops around to go back uptown, it passes right through it. I was lucky to catch a glimpse. Today it's called City Hall Station. Next stop requires us to take the Sky Car over the river. We're headed to Roosevelt Island. I highly suggest everyone to go. On the way, you get an incredible view of the city. And located at the back of the island, holds one of New York's most eerie secrets. Okay, behind me is one of the coolest things in New York City. Not a lot of people know about it. It's kind of creepy. It's the Renwick Smallpox Hospital ruins. And it's been on TV shows like Ghost Hunters, it's been in movies. The secret hideout of the Foot. This abandoned warehouse was a training ground for crime and housed one of my favorite villains of all time.
You are here because the outside world rejects you.
Just the fact that I was able to find this is really cool to me. Makes me wonder what really happened here years ago. We're at Columbus Circle. Now this is a very important spot because in a lot of movies, monsters destroy the city down this avenue. Stay Puft. He's definitely number one on the giant monster list. Raphael was there. I think he said it best.
Ugh. Where did they come up with this stuff?
Of course, monsters aren't only found at Columbus Circle. A T-Rex can be spotted in Times Square. Oddly, it fits in quite nicely.
We'll have Manhattan, the Bronx and Staten Island too.
I took Suzanne on a date to Brooklyn Heights one night. Definitely the best view of the city. It's true you can get a breathtaking view of the city from Rockefeller. But there's something about being down on the ground and looking up at the lights. Either way, we loved it. One of the major highlights of the trip was going on a helicopter tour of the city. You really get a feeling of how big the island is. Seeing the layout of the city was just absolutely incredible. But flying isn't cheap, so we saw as many free things in the city that we could.
Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars.
New York pizza.
Spring is like on a Jupiter and Mars. In other words,
if you need a break from the crowds, then Central Park is always a breath of fresh air. But if crowds are your thing, then you could spend hours hanging out in Times Square, just people watching.
fill my heart with song.
Not to mention the hundreds of LED displays, moving graphics, as well as movie stars. If you can imagine it, it's probably there.
And adore.
So, where did Suzanne and I stay?
I've been stuck in the struggle and I've been wondering if I'm ever gonna bubble. I'm getting caught up in the tough state of using my muscle when every time I extend my heart to my mother.
Brooklyn is a great place to stay because it's close by, but it won't break your wallet. Close to the river, you can usually find all kinds of boats, even old ships. A big part of our travels is dedicated to touring museums. Suzanne and I love museums. And New York's Museum of Natural History is one of my favorites. It's one of the largest and most celebrated museums in the world. Located in the Upper West Side of Manhattan, it holds 46 exhibition halls and over 32 million specimens. We also visited the Met. They had pretty much everything. Medieval armor, mummies, samurai, dinosaurs with the skin still on. They have something for everyone at this museum. I shot so much video. But my favorite collection would have to be the armor. The different colors and designs of the helmets were the best part. The paintings were beautiful. It's really different seeing them in person, especially the famous ones. After the museums, we left for DC. Washington, D.C. felt like a different world once we got there. The weather went from overcast every day to sunny all the time. Suzanne and I got the hookup when we visited DC. We stayed at a pretty sweet hotel. We had the privilege of staying with Lucas and Jamie. It was our first time getting to meet the twins. Saturday we went to the National Zoo. There's Evan, he's the youngest. Then there's Ethan, his twin. Carson's the middle child. And Landon's the oldest. Oh, and then there's Lucas and Jamie, of course. We weren't just sightseeing at the zoo, we were on a quest for the famous giant panda. Even though they're among the most recognizable animal, they are still only 1,600 still left in the world. Gorillas were a big hit too. The Smithsonian museums are a must-see. Dinosaurs hang there too. And Dorothy? Yeah, she keeps her slippers there. The classic Kermit is displayed there, as well as the original Kermit, which was first a part of Sam and Friends. Jim Henson was a genius. The original Superman suit, that was there. The Air and Space Museum is an aviator's dream. One of the biggest surprises was seeing the actual Wright brothers plane. And seeing all the old items from the space program really made me wish we still sent up shuttles to space. The giant sloth was Suzanne's favorite. Almost as much as she enjoyed feeding the squirrels. Seeing the monuments at night was a treat. The trip as a whole was one of my favorite vacations. We got to see a lot of famous places, as well as be with old friends. Well, that sums up our trip to DC and New York. It's hard to compare the two cities because they're so different. I think there's something special about every place we've been. Hopefully, this video does it just a little justice. And if there's things you've always wanted to discover, you might be surprised at what you find.